remember when I first started working with you, there were the commitments. So I kind of like commitments a little better than homework, because you could, I mean, initially I wanted to commit to everything and do it perfectly. And I remember, back then that, like, I would go out of, like even, if I made the commitment to do certain work, like I would do it even if I didn't feel good. Like, so it was a while before I realized that, flexibility is this huge thing and this important thing. And that, like, that if I committed to something and then wasn't able to do it, that's not the end of the world. That is, that I need to be flexible even on that. And maybe hone, maybe iterate and hone my commitment to something more manageable. But, that if you can't do the homework, if you can't do the commitment, that's okay.
Yeah. And what was the difference between homework and commitments from your perspective, even those words?
Yeah. Well, homework is loaded with a lot of baggage in terms of, like, stress and things like that. Even a straight A student probably will have some negative associations with homework. And, very few of us were straight A students lifelong. So there are probably even more negative associations with the idea of homework versus a commitment. Probably some people have, that might be a loaded word for some people too, who have had issues with commitment. But yeah, overall for me, it was in terms of the word itself, I felt like I had more agency in the commitment versus homework thing. Homework suggests 1 hour dynamic, I guess. It's being assigned to you, versus a commitment feels more like, hey, it's a choice I'm making. It's mine. It's homework has a judgmental connotation. You're being judged on how well you do it. Commitment is you're the judge, and you can, sort of known that people can be harsh judges of themselves, but I feel like it's just a better framing overall.
Yeah, I really like everything that you're saying there. The homework implies that I'm assigning it to you and then I'm judging whether or not you're doing it well. Commitment implies you're deciding what you care about and what you value, and you're committing to it in some reasonable way. And I appreciate what you were saying, that, like, if you overshoot, so if you commit to something that's not reasonable, just part of the process is learning, like, that's okay. How can I modify to make myself effective, knowing that effectiveness over time are reasonable commitments over time, or like is the byproduct of reasonable commitments over time, rather than trying to be perfect. So that's really good. Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking is, even though the word commitment can have baggage for people, that seems like the type of baggage that's worth, I mean, maybe homework in some senses can also be something that you work through in therapy, but I think commitment is a really important one to work through, because being able to make a decision and live in it is such an important part of adulthood and well-being. And so if you can start with something like, I'm going to commit tomorrow to staying under 2 hours on social media. And if I can make that commitment over time, I can also make other commitments, like where I want to work, or what, if I want to go back to school, or who I want to date or be with long term. Like, those kind of little commitments can add up and give you self-trust until you're able to make, like, larger commitments that matter a lot to your life. Do you have thoughts about that?
No, I think that's really well said. Homework failure is not actually possible in therapy, and that takes a long time to figure out. Like as long as you're going, like, there is no failure, but it does get early on.
Why is there no failure?
It's about putting in the reps. I mean, it's more like working out than winning a beauty contest, right? Like, I mean, the you win when you show up. You win when you persist. It's not like there's a singular moment of failure or success. It's a process, not an outcome. And so homework makes it easy to go into what I think is for me was certainly a default attitude about therapy, that it was a kind of endeavor of either success or failure rather than process.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I just want to expand on that is true for all conditions. So even though OCD is sometimes thought of as like either you do exposure and response prevention and your anxiety subsides, or you don't, that is still a process that is not linear. Like most people, when they come to understand how anxiety and OCD operates for the first time, they do get pretty rapid relief in some parts of their anxiety, because all of a sudden they understand that some things are maintaining it. And if they stop doing those things, then they don't feel as anxious. And also typically understanding how subtly this process can be and how pervasive it can be throughout your life can take a long time, can take a lot of trial and error and a lot of persistence. And so recovery is very rarely linear. And I just appreciate the way that you're saying just showing up is succeeding in therapy.